cafe. Anyway. Yeah.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Well, hello there to you. It's episode
Mike's Daily Podcast
2412 2412. It's Mike Matthews, and hey, there's some stuff I want to pass along to yous, and it's hopefully something that you could use, and it's great that I'm singing to yous on this Sunday, and I'm getting interrupted by people from my other job, and it's annoying, and I wish it would stop.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
That's right. Let me ask you a question. If I offered you a job where you never have
Mike's
a weekend to yourself,
Daily
despite the fact that you have,
Podcast.
I don't know, what's it called, a life, would you take that job, even though if it was something that you really, really loved, in a business that you really, really loved, but oh, you know what, you don't get a life, so, you know, there's that. If you want this job, you can't have a life. What do you want? If that's the path you want to take, let me suggest to you my job. You can have it. Oh my gosh. I've been bothered about 12 times this weekend by random people in my job. You know what? And I love the people I work with. It just, they have no concept of boundaries. And it really gets annoying because as I've gotten into my 50s, I'm 53 now, I really need some boundaries, especially with what happened this year to me, losing my mom. And there's so much going on with that right now that people just encroaching on a Saturday, on a Sunday. It is not good, and yours truly is not going to stand for it much longer. Just going to let you know that, and that the Grammys are happening, and apparently the slap was mentioned. But you probably...
And here's today's podcast picture.
You probably heard about this by the time you're listening to this. But the podcast picture today is of the late, great Basil the Boxer when he came upon a cow in Podcastro Valley. A Podcastro Valley cow. We are broadcasting to you, by the way, from Cafe Anyway, somewhere in Podcastro Valley, the last place on earth. That's right. We allow dogs. The late, great Basil the Boxer, always welcome here amongst all these people here at the last place on earth. So much fun. Let me ask you guys a question. I'm asking the people here, the crowd that's here. Hey, crowd that's here, what do you think about not ever having a day off because people feel the need to bother you on a Saturday and a Sunday? Huh? Anybody have anything to say? They're all shaking their heads in disbelief that that's my job. Yes, it's my job. And I love my job. The concept of it anyway, the whole radio thing, but my patience is gone at this point. Oh, hey, here's the other thing. So I'll jump to that in a moment, but LeVar Burton, the host of the pre-show ceremonies today, introduced comedian Nate Bargatze and told everyone they needed to stay in their seats. I need to warn everybody, the next presenter is a comedian. LeVar Burton, of course, from Star Trek The Next Generation. It was a Reading Rainbow, Reading Bus, or Reading something or other, and he said, I need to caution everybody, remain in your seats and keep your hands to yourself. I got a little change in my pocket going jingle-ling-a-ling. Wanna call you up, baby, and give you a ring, but each time I call, I get the same old thing. Always no huggy, no kissy, until I get a wedding ring. My honey, my baby, don't put my heart on no shelf. She said, don't give me no lines and keep your hands to yourself. That was a huge 80s hit. People forget. Everybody's like, oh, the 80s. It was like a bunch of synthesizer music. I don't like it. What about all the Southern rock that got popular? Your 38 Special, your Georgia Satellites, George Thorogood. And then some kind of quasi-Southern rock, your John Mellencamp, your Bruce Springsteen. Come on, people. Let's get with it. And then there were a couple. I'm trying to think of the female singer-songwriters. Oh, man. I apologize. It is not my brain. It was not so easy for female singer-songwriters to be big with a Southern rock sound. I guess your Bonnie Raitt. She got popular later in the early 90s. Not so much the 80s, but anyway, Cafe Anyway. LeVar Burton. Good job, LeVar. By the way, the comedian that he was introducing, Nate Bargatze, came out with a comically oversized helmet just in case. He joked, they said comedians have to wear these now at award shows. It doesn't even cover your face. Grammys, everybody. Hey, and Mike talked music today. Mike talks music. Mike also talks the late, great Estelle Harris. She was on Seinfeld. She was George Costanza's mom and had some incredible lines. And I'm not one of these people that remembers famous lines from TV shows and movies. Plus, it really only serves a tiny fragment of the audience that actually remembers and knows those things. Believe it or not, the younger generation not watching Seinfeld as much as we did. Wait, now I'm assuming I'm guessing that the person listening is older or younger than me, but not younger by much, but I don't know. How can you know? It's a podcast. You don't know who's listening. At any rate, Estelle Harris. Oh, she was hilarious on that show. 93 years old. Good for her. What a life. Oh, Estelle Harris, you will never be forgotten. You were amazing. She also had other roles. She was the voice of Mrs. Potato Head in Toy Story. Aw. And speaking of listeners, may I say, and I will say because it is my podcast and I can say whatever, wow. And that is that, and I kind of brought this up in my last podcast called Baffles. But the podcast picture, by the way, is from 5 years ago with the late, great Basil the Boxer and a cow. And that's kind of how I feel like today. I feel like I'm being watched by a cow. Wait, what? No, I feel like I'm being watched by or listened to by no one. As we go outside a cafe anyway, we're bringing you Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcastro Valley. The last place on earth. And being listened to, I am the tree that falls in the forest that didn't really fall in the forest because no one heard it. So did it really fall in the forest? No one heard it? So no one listens to this podcast, just so you know. Not to call you a nobody, but no one, absolutely no one listens to this podcast. And I know this because over the zillions of times I've tried to reach out to the audience, no one ever responds back. I've done contests. I have had major, huge, horrific things happen to me that I've talked about on the podcast and gotten I lost Basil the Boxer. He passed away 2 years ago. Heard from no one. None of my listeners. Nobody. And I mean, there's a gazillion ways, and gazillion is a number. You can look it up. Gazillion. It's right before puzzillion and gazillion. But gazillion, and gazillionaire is my rap name, and gazillions of times I have mentioned that, these things. Nothing. So I am just going to guess. I'm going to deduce and not say the word assume, since everybody is so down on that word these days because of the way it's spelt, and it has 3 letters in it that people make a joke out of. That's a stupid joke, and I've heard it too many times. Here's the thing. Nobody listens to this podcast. No one. So if you happen to be listening, you're just a fluke. You didn't happen to mean to listen to the podcast. You just did. Or if you do listen to the podcast, you have absolutely no concept of how to reach out to me. unless you're a friend of mine that has my own personal text, or I'm going to see you, I don't know, you're my next door neighbor. Maybe my next door neighbor listens. I know he did listen to a couple shows, but here's the thing. So nobody listens to this podcast at all. You are listening to a podcast with 0 listeners. Absolutely no one listens. So this is a podcast like that. You're not going to listen to it. If you want, you probably do. But NPR has a plethora of podcasts that got a gazillion listeners. There's the guy, Joe Rogan. He's got a gazillion listeners. There's the This American Life guy gets a gazillion listeners. A lot of sports things. Oh, and here's the thing. Is if I wanted a gazillion listeners, I would buy a video game and learn how to play it and talk about it. And apparently that would get a gazillion listeners. Or talk about anime. Or talk about something that people are... Oh, here's the other thing, too. I'm 53, I'm gray, and I'm bald. However, I do think for the most part, I have a good smile. And you know why I have a good smile? Is because I smile a lot. I practice at it. And you should smile as much as you can. Smile though your heart is breaking. Just smile. And that's a Jimmy Durante song. If you just smile, if your heart is breaking. So smile, everybody. That's my point of all this rant. And for every rant, there's a plant. Look at this wonderful plant. It's a lovely Meyer lemon plant. This will bring me lemons at some point here at Cafe Anyway, outside of Cafe Anyway, somewhere in Podcastro Alleyton, the last place on earth. My point is, my listeners do not respond to anything. I look at YouTube channels that have, and I follow some YouTube channels, and none of the hosts of the YouTube channels, by the way, are like that YouTube influencer look. There are these young, super young people. They have this perfect, unblemished skin or whatever, have this look that attracts people because they want to just gawk at them. And they're going to tell you about all these amazing products and things, and they're influencers, YouTube influencers, and they don't have a single... It's all just show. Which is what the movie... was it not Broadcast News? Network News? Network. That one, I think. That told us, the mad as heck, and I'm not going to take it anymore. That someday, it would all be nice, shiny pictures and nice, shiny things, and that's all what anybody cares about. And that's what anybody watches on YouTube, and then they'll listen to the podcast, because it's, that person is a nice, shiny thing, and I'll follow them. And Dua Lipa has her own podcast, which actually I did listen to a little bit with her interview with Elton John, which is interesting, and she sounds good. She's got a good speaking voice. I mean, her singing voice is okay, but what a speaking voice. So she definitely is smart for branching out into the podcast world, because at some point, the fickle audience will turn on her, and they won't be buying her albums as much anymore. So she'll have to have something to fall back on. So my dog passes away. My mom passes away. Each time, not a single response, not a single comment on any of the social media, not a single email sent to me, MikesDailyPodcast@gmail.com, not a single call. A call here at Cafe Anyway, a call to me at 336MM Daily. Nothing, nada. Nothing at all. It's as if the listener has boundaries that they're not going to cross. And they're just... I'll listen to Mike, but I'm not going to contact him in any way. Not even... I'm on all these... If you go to my website, MikesDailyPodcast.com, I'm on all of the social media. And nobody comments or responds to anything. They'll like something... They'll like a post, but they're just responding to the podcast picture that's on the front of the post. They're not actually listening to this podcast like you are. presumably. And then I lost my cat, Rodler, who was actually in a video that I posted on MikesDailyPodcast.com. The wonderful cat, Rodler, has vanished. It's been over 2 weeks. Over 3 weeks at this point. He's gone. Nothing! None of you! What the heck? You'll go ahead and, that cute little girl that models, these cute little things, these cute little tops she found on this cute little website you never heard of. And her friend who's an Etsy, she wears the cute little hats and everything from them. If she sneezes and breaks a fingernail, you're writing to her, I'm so sorry, Marjorie, that you broke your fingernail. Click, 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 click. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. 'Tis the sneezin'. Seasonal allergies affect more than the nose and eyes for those who suffer from asthma. Unfortunately, in addition to affecting the nose and eyes, the perennial allergies, seasonal allergies, can also cause asthma symptoms to act up. More coughing, more wheezing, chest tightness. Yes, tightness is a word I came up with just now, but it could work. Right when you're trying to enjoy the outdoors. An allergic response occurs when the immune system identifies pollen or other allergens as an invader. The immune system then activates cells to release histamine and other chemicals to help clear the invader, and while doing so, it creates symptoms like nasal congestion and running nose. For some people, it also affects lungs and airways, which can cause asthma symptoms. After susceptible individuals are exposed to pollen, there is an immediate reaction that could cause spasms in the tubes that lead to the lungs. Known as the early allergic response, it is related to the immediate release of histamine. 2 to 24 hours later, a late allergic response brings in more allergy cells to fight off the invader, and in turn causes more asthma-type symptoms. Over-the-counter medications can help for allergies. There's generic antihistamines, including fexofenadine, loratadine, and cetirizine. They can help temper the histamine response in both early and late allergic reactions. Prescription medications include Montelukast, an oral medication to help with both asthma and allergic rhinitis. An inhaler may be a good option for those with asthma symptoms, as it will open the airways and decrease the spasms. Intranasal steroids are also highly recommended, as they are very effective at decreasing allergy symptoms. Allergen immunotherapy, i.e. allergy shots, is also helpful. It works by slowly decreasing the immune response to allergy triggers by providing small but increasing amounts of exposure to the trigger. Other steps include keeping windows closed during high pollen counts, washing clothes when coming inside from the outdoors, being in contact with pollen, and avoiding being outdoors during high pollen times. This according to Dr. Ritika Gupta. She has a website called thebeebaby.com, a New York-based board-certified allergist, immunologist, and co-author of What? I Could Be Allergic to That? As the name implies, seasonal allergies generally only last for one season, while perennial allergies like pet dander, dust mites, and mold are present all year round. Allergy testing can help with diagnosing the allergy triggers and, depending on the result, can point to options such as environmental modifications, pollen avoidance, and or allergy immunotherapy. And you know what? I am so sorry if you suffer from allergies. It just looked... My lovely lady friend gets the allergies and she sneezes, and I feel so bad for her. But she has gone and got this allergy testing, and it was extremely helpful. And she was able to combat it. Here in Podcastro Valley, lots of stuff can give you, lots of allergies can affect you. I guess all over the country, wherever something's growing, wherever a plant's growing, there are these issues that can happen. That from the Costco connection. I gave Costco a plug, now I'm going to give them a slug. Why on earth don't you have a Costco in Castro Valley. Why not? Why? Oh, but Mike, you can just go over to Danville or San Leandro or Hayward or... Yeah, now I've just described every single town around Castro Valley. But sure be nice if there was one inside of it. And why are you guys so busy? Oh, because you're Costco. And just give me some free stock. That's all I want. And your almond milk. Hey, we're outside a cafe anyway. Look who's here. Hello, Mike. It's Benita the Rodeo. Hell yeah!
That's a disgruntled fiddle player. Tell you what.
What?
Benita is conserving her energy because there's that big rodeo coming up in Podcastro Valley. Tell you what.
What?
Rodeo.
Yeah. I want you guys to be nice to the animals at the rodeo. That's right, Mike. Be nice to animals, like my horse Newt. That's right. Be nice to your animals, Benita. I will. Bye. And look who else is here.
Oh my God, my delicious root beer. Have some.
I will have some of your delicious root beer, oh boy. So good. What is in it?
I have all kinds of delicious things put in that root beer like pollen.
Pollen? In the root beer? No! Hey. I guess that's pretty much the end of the show. Look at this, look. Listen, listen. All these L words, la la la. My point is, if you are a podcaster, there is going to be a day where you will have no listeners. Especially if you do not talk about gaming. Because apparently that's where you get all the listeners from, is you're talking about gaming. Or perhaps you talk about, I don't know, marijuana. Or food. Or some other catchy topic. Or some other... Maybe you're a history podcaster. Maybe you're one of these podcasters that goes super produced and tells these stories and do these seasons, and your podcast is not daily because you put all this time and work and effort into it. Unlike yours truly, who puts time, work, and effort into just getting a daily podcast to the listener and tries to get to the listener that doesn't exist and tries to get helpful things to help the listener, to help them, to make them happy in this world that is so crazy and nuts. And I wish you the best of luck.
Awesome.
That's a nightmare of a show.
Okay. All right. Let's go.
Okay. That's good. Next show, it'll be the wonderful Madame Rootabega, Valentino, Bison Bentley. Tell me what you think about anything we covered today. 336MM Daily. 3 + 3 = 6. MM as in Mike Matthews Daily, as in what this podcast has been. And with more ways to contact me, it is a frame.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MikesDailyPodcast.com. Email Mike now at MikesDailyPodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!